4 years after the original Daija fight stick was released, we now have this. This is the second generation Nacon Daija arcade stick. You can now get this for Xbox as well as PlayStation, and word on the street is that this fight stick is so good, it should be illegal. And you might be wondering where the name Daija comes from. Well, it comes from Japan, and Daija was a white serpent. And this fight stick is also white, and that's no coincidence. And it's said whoever encounters Daija risks death or suffering, probably due to Daija's lightning quick reflex actions. So if you get one of these, you will have reflex actions like a snake. And I feel sorry for your enemies, because with this, you'll be able to unleash the fury.
Unleash the fury. Unleash the fury.
Of the Nacon Daija arcade stick, and more so if you actually know what you're doing when you're playing, like this lady, Kayan. More on her a bit later. So now let's get a close-up look at the Nacon Daija itself. So a premium arcade stick needs premium parts, and there's none better than Sanwa, a Japanese company that has specialized in manufacturing arcade parts since 1982. And the Nacon Daija is equipped with a Sanwa JLF lever, which has Japanese Omron switches behind it, as well as Sanwa 30mm OBSF buttons in the Vewlix configuration. That's the pattern that you see here. The first two buttons are slightly lower down, and the other 6 are in line with each other. Now, what makes the Nacon Daija unlike other regular arcade sticks is how easy Nacon have made it to change the parts out, modify them, upgrade them, or just replace broken parts. Regarding compatible parts, I recommend referring to Nacon's website for the official compatibility list. However, if you manage to damage any of the components, you can easily switch them out with official Sanwa parts, which you can buy online. And they're relatively inexpensive, and once you have them, you can change them out within a few minutes. All you need to do to change out the parts is use the quick release buttons on either side at the same time to pop the lid like that briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
We happy? Yeah, we happy.
And straight away you'll see that Nacon have provided some of the tools for the job inside the casing of the Daija. This is a hex key screwdriver for releasing the facade, or the faceplate as it's referred to sometimes, which is on the top of the arcade stick. And then you get this little silver disc which will help you unclip the joystick ribbon and unscrew the joystick head. And Nacon do provide 2 different arcade stick heads. You got the ball head and you got the baton head. And apparently you should never use this for Street Fighter. Someone schooled me to that when I posted my 1-minute short of the fight stick. Now, when it comes to modifying the buttons on the Daija, it's actually really easy to do. You just pinch the top and bottom edges like that, and it releases them, and you can pull them through, and then they pop out the top like this. Now, if you actually want to change the button caps, that's more tricky. You need 2 screwdrivers, so you could use the hex screwdriver and another flathead either side, and that pops the top cap off. These are just pull-off cables. And one of the great things about this design is they've color coded all of the button cables here, and there's even a little diagram to let you know what cable is what. When it comes to the actual fight stick element here, you can unclip the ribbon here using that silver tool I showed you before, unclip this piece of plastic, and you can remove that entire piece. There are only some joysticks that will be compatible, but to be honest, for most people, the Sanwa component is kind of the gold standard of joysticks anyway. And when you remove this clear bit of plastic here, you can see the Omron switches, and I believe these could actually be replaced individually. So if any of those break, you can just literally get one of those and switch it out fairly easily. And I can tell you from experience, that hinge mechanism that this has is very strong. Unlike my Street Fighter 4 skills. And thanks to the redesign of the release catches, they now sit flush to the body. They don't stick out like the old version of this fight stick. And this means that the lid will not pop up unexpectedly mid-game like a James Bond ejector seat. Okay, now let's go back to the faceplate. As you can see, we have a white snake skin. just like the legendary Serpent Daija. We've also got Nacon branding up here, we've got Nacon emblem over here, and we can simply undo these screws to change it. And in order to remove the plexiglass, before you remove the screws, you should probably remove the ball or baton head that you have attached to the fight stick. And this tool also comes in handy for lifting the plexiglass. So here's the second skin that's in the box. It's a black snake skin with reveal your skills. And I was gonna say, one of the skills you're gonna need to reveal is what button is what. But I realized after having taken this off that actually the buttons are mapped here on the clear plastic. So the third faceplate is something you can get creative with. It's kind of a design your own, and I'm so tempted to draw on this right now. And Nacon do provide a sticker pack in the box. So if you don't want to reveal your bad artistic skills on this blank canvas, you could just put some stickers on there. And then once you've decided which one is your favorite faceplate, just put the screws back in and that's it. So the overall cabinet is well built, it's solid, it measures in at 38 by 26 by 7 centimeters, and it weighs just over 3.4 kilograms. So if you end up raging because you lost the game, whatever you do, do not throw the Daija, because remember, the Nacon Daija could also present risk of death and suffering, or both, in the real world too. But seriously now, that weight that it has helps it sit comfortably and firmly on a desk like this or on your lap. And it has a sizable anti-slip rubber mat on the base that prevents it from sliding around. But be careful if you plan on using this on your lap, because the grip on this rubber pad is so good that if you stand up too quickly, it could end up pulling your pants down. The sides of the cabinet have this kind of mesh pattern on it, and it's a hard plastic, you can't see through it. This is an officially licensed PlayStation product, and yes, it does have the PlayStation logo on the front, as well as an analog audio jack. This supports headphones with microphones built in. And despite the Sony PlayStation branding on the actual fight stick, with this USB-C to USB-A braided 3-meter cable that comes with it, you can use it with Mac or PC. And if you can coil the cable back up nicely like I have here, like a snake, you can actually fit it into this little side compartment inside the fight stick. So when you're traveling around, you got everything you need right here. And something that's really nice about the design of this arcade stick is the wrist rest. So it offers a texture so that you're not caught slipping when things get a little bit sweaty. Now let's talk about the buttons on the right hand side of the arcade stick. So you've got your R3 and L3. These are usually the downward click on the left and right analog sticks on a pad. Then you've got your options button, and this button here is the share button. And then we have this, which is exclusive to the PS5 version of this fight stick. It is the touchpad and it is clickable. If you get the Xbox version of this, you won't have that. And then we have these two switches. So this one here actually changes the mapping of the joystick from the D-pad to the left stick or the right stick, whatever you want. As standard, I've got it on D-pad. And then this switch here is the platform selection switch. You can go from PS5 to PS4 to PC at the bottom. So whatever platform you're on, you use that switch to switch between them. So now let's talk about the buttons on the front of the arcade stick. We have the PlayStation button, and as you already know, when you push that, it boots up the PlayStation and switches on the arcade stick at the same time. On a PC, it won't work like that. The light bar here actually represents what player you are on the PlayStation. So if it's blue, you're gonna be player 1. If it's orange, player 2, and so on. Now, these little LEDs here, the two either side, these are your custom button profiles, which you've mapped using the PC software. So you can toggle between those with the profile button here. And then we have the important lock switch. And I'll explain why that is so important in just a moment. And since we're now talking about profiles, let me quickly show you the Nacon Daija software that's available on PC and Mac, because if you have one of these, you will need it to create custom profiles for this fight stick. So let me show you how to do it. So all you need to do to program in your own custom button profiles is plug the Daija fight stick into your PC and actually have it set to the platform you're going to use. So I've got this set to PlayStation mode right now. Then within the software, I'm going to go to PlayStation here, and you can see there's already 4 presets loaded on the arcade stick. The bottom one is actually one that I made myself earlier. And I'm just going to show you very quickly how you create your own profile. So in the top right corner here, you've got new profile. Click that. You name that profile. You say who's created that profile. So if there are multiple different people using the fight stick, you can put the names of those people, and then you can choose the slot that you want to save that profile in. There are only 4 slots, so make sure you use those wisely. And when it comes to mapping the buttons, use the buttons as they're marked on the actual joystick and map them to whatever button you want them to be. So the advantage of doing this is if you map out custom profiles for games based off of the default values before you change anything in game, then no matter whose console you plug this fight stick into, you'll be good to go as long as the buttons are set to default within the game settings. I know that sounds confusing, but hopefully it will make sense to some of you guys. And I know it will make sense to those of you who are pro players. And yes, you can create more than 4 custom profiles and store them in the My Library section within the software, but you will need to return to your Mac or PC to load them to the onboard memory on the Nacon Daija. And like I said before, there can be only 4. And another advantage of doing this is when you're switching between your 4 favorite fighting games, all you need to do to change the button layout is hit the profile button here, and you see the LED switches between them. So you just need to memorize what ones you've mapped to what one. Now going back to why that lock switch is so important. Once you've chosen the profile for the game that you're playing, you can hit that switch there, the light goes red, and now that profile is locked. But not only is that profile locked, but also so are all of the buttons and switches on the side. So if you're playing and somebody walks along and thinks they're going to sabotage you by pushing these buttons or changing your button profile while you're mid-game, they won't be able to do it. And it will also prevent you from doing it accidentally too. Okay, now the moment that I've been dreading. It's time for me to reveal my very rusty Street Fighter V skills. So overall, my opinion on the Nacon Daija Fight Stick Generation 2 is this is a solid bit of kit. The buttons feel very tactile, very premium. The Samurai stick allows you to react very quickly, and I do realize some people prefer sticks sometimes with a bit more resistance, and that's what makes this great, is the fact that if you want to change out parts, you can do it without voiding the warranty on the product. And something else that makes this stick great is the fact that the cable that comes with it is completely detachable. So if that gets broken, you can just go on Amazon and buy a replacement USB-A to USB-C cable without having to worry too much about it. A hardwired cable that breaks, you might need to get it soldered back onto the motherboard inside. You can see how that would be far more difficult. But listen, this is just my opinion, and I'm not a pro player, but this lady is. Her name is Kayan, and I heard she's fire when it comes to fighting games, and she is a French pro player, and she had involvement in designing the Nacon Daija Fight Stick. In particular with regards to the size of the wrist rest, and also the locking feature which has now been added. And if Nacon asked me what could be added to this fight stick to make it even better, why not put some RGB under the hood? Because gamers love RGB, and wouldn't it be cool to have a faceplate that has some clear parts of it that allows like a red glow to come up from underneath through the Nacon Daija Japanese symbol? That would just look awesome in my opinion. And Nacon, if you're watching, you can have that for free. But next time, I want to be on the box like Kayan. Anyway, if you guys are pro gamers but you're not really into fighting games, then this pad, the DualSense Edge, is brand new from Sony. It's fantastic. It could be the greatest pro player pad you can get right now. To find out why, check out this thumbnail that's on screen right now. And if you just subscribed, I will see you in the next one. So don't be late. So I spent all this time drawing this only to find out that actually it's the wrong bloody side.
Perfect.